Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing on this fine Sunday?
I hate to say
Day?
it, but
To be contradictory, but it's very metal.
I'm Yamez, the
Metal.
Diamond Metal
very
Forge. With
metal.
me
Yeah,
is
way more metal.
Grass
I guess
Forge and
I didn't know that
Alexis
stuff was metal.
from Transcendental Artist Studios. How y'all doing
Hello.
today? Hello.
Metal is cool.
um, how you guys
Morning.
doing? Morning.
It's the metal.
Aliens have to
Ah,
blacksmith somehow. In the chat, Paul Orchard in first, but he said he'd be back soon. I don't know if he's back or not. Stephen Parsons, Trail Dust, Transcendental Artist Studios, popping in to say hi, sliding in, sideways and worn out, ready to rock. Eric, good morning. Jeff Killian, Paul Orchard, Wayne Heights, Bortagov. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good to see my channel members are popping in. How you guys doing? Special shout out to you guys. What up? Morning, Mountain Home Forge. Uh, Carnage, you guys keep coming in. I'm gonna keep saying good morning instead of getting to the show. uh, morning, morning. So, how's y'all's week? You guys.
yeah. Well, boy, did I have a week. I tell you what, I was off Monday and Tuesday. I had to run home for a doctor's appointment that got canceled when I was about 5 minutes from town. Yeah, gotta love that because the air conditioner went out at the clinic, so they canceled everybody and rescheduled for a later date. I got to go back the 8th of July. But yeah, I mean, it's like, man, I took the day off work and I drove 108 miles for nothing. And so, anyways, I had Monday and Tuesday off, so I worked Sunday. Anyways, 5 day work week. And, it was pretty light, 86 hours. So, got off actually fairly early today because the last few days I've been getting in about 10 a.m. and I got in here about 2 or 3 this morning. Is when I got in, and well, it's when I got off work. I'll just say that. It's been a week. I did not get a chance. I mean, like I was so because when I was off, I was at home and did not have my PC with me, so I wasn't able to edit the podcast from last week. So I did that this morning, right before the show. Actually, I got it edited. I got it set in my Dropbox, and I got it uploaded to Anchor, but it's not published yet. After the show, I got to go in and like do the title and the description and all that, and then I'll publish last week's episode right after we're done here.
Right on, right.
That's my week. Oh yeah.
A lot of editing.
Yeah.
Please, you guys. Doing a lot of work for this podcast. I'd really like to see it take off. Tell people about it, let people know what we're doing, of course, as always, and bring on the views or the listens. Let people know to download it. So he's going bending over backwards to get this taken care of for everybody. So please, uh, now to be fair, to be
To be fair.
To
fair,
be fair, to be fair.
To be fair,
To be fair.
To be fair.
uh, we're really, we discussed it this morning, and we're kind of pushing. We're getting used to the system, and then we're going to be pushing any sort of marketing, like heavily. So we're getting used to it, and then we'll push it. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just trying to smooth out our process first, as far as the editing, as far as the editing goes, and the show length and our interaction. I mean, just getting on here and BSing on a live stream is a little bit different. I mean, because that's what we started with, and now we're just we're trying to be a little bit more refined, I guess. With a little bit of humor here and there, and some good information here and there, and sometimes it's just a downright interesting conversation. But in any case, it's got to be compelling content, and trying to work that out Yeah. It takes a little bit of effort.
Right.
So
Adam?
my week.
Adam.
I spent the week basically hanging off machinery, just trying to get more stuff done for those of you that haven't heard, my upcoming nuptials. So I've been hanging off chainsaws and all sorts of machinery. I hired out a mini excavator. I think it's a micro. No, definitely a mini excavator, 1.8 tons. A 2-ton tipper. And basically, removed a whole heap of dead trees from the area where the reception and the actual ceremony is going to be, and got round to hanging my bush chandelier. So, I'll just
Put it in
A bush
Island Metal Forge chat. Yeah, I had a chandelier
just
hanging from my
I'll put it
bush.
in the I'll
a
put
bush
it in the Island
chandelier.
Metal Forge chat.
Is
Yeah,
that Christmas lights in a tree?
I was
No,
thinking.
so it's
I was thinking something else.
I will actually just a second to see if I can post it. It's basically a ladder with a timber ladder, I should say, with a whole heap of hanging lights, string lights, using, and the surrounding them is old lanterns, old jars, mason jars, that type of thing, and it's basically suspended above whatever area you choose to put it in. I'm just trying to find the Island Metal Forge Discord. Yep, they're just doing that now. So a couple of pictures of it actually made, and a couple of pictures of it lit and hung above the area in which it's supposed to be. If I can find, so these are what it was built, looked like when it was built, and before it was hung in the area, and then of course we've got the what it looks like hanging above the area. So now in the Island Metal Forge chat. So I hung that up. That was a few weeks in the making, getting that actually done. And then finished off. Yeah, I've wood burnt some signage for the actual wedding and car parking and restrooms and all that type of thing. A whole heap of organisational stuff to be done that had to be done. It's been flat out 100 miles an hour, and then of course for those of you that are in Australia or follow a rugby league, particularly Australian rugby league, tonight was the second game in a series of 3 for what we call the State of Origin. So it's one of the biggest rugby league competitions in Australia. And it's basically people who started off their rugby league career within one of two states, New South Wales or Queensland. And these are players that play for in the national football, National Rugby League, and New South Wales won. So go the Blues. The Blues, the New South Wales Blues are my team, of course. So yeah. And as for answering Paul's question, I need to give a 5-minute walk around the view of my block. I actually started filming that on Friday, so I am doing it so that everyone had a reason to see why I haven't actually posted anything on my channel for the last year. So over the next week or so, I'm actually going to be filming bits and pieces around my block so that you can see what's going on and see my patch. I did start filming that on Friday. Unfortunately, I only have had the machine, the excavator, and the dump truck for 2 days, and I needed to not only remove all the trees but do some work on my driveway, which is absolutely horrendous after the last wet season. And considering I've got about 60 odd people coming for my wedding, all of which were staying in the local area, traveling in and hiring cars, I need to fix my driveway so that it doesn't turn even worse with the next time. So,
Right.
Out of 400 meters, I've managed over this weekend to do about 50. So yeah, and that's cost me $600. Yeah,
That's basically done.
Yeah.
no, I've done the worst parts, but yeah.
Just be like,
needless to say,
good.
needless to say, I've got a lot more road work coming up in the future in the next couple of weeks. So
Get a
yes.
rake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, a rake.
You know, just get a rake out and you kind of rake the. Yeah, no, never mind.
That's it. Yeah. So yeah, so that's been my week. Absolutely flat out again. And then of course, looking forward now. Got a new piece of equipment. I'll jump on the video and so people can see my lovely face. And just to my left, I actually got a new microphone as well. I was jealous of Alex's wonderful microphone there with a thing of absolute beauty. So I decided that I saw this bargain come up on Facebook Marketplace, and I decided I needed one as well. So now I've got a little bit better audio quality, I think. And
Yeah.
this is the first time officially using it.
Yep, sounds good.
Uh-huh.
I think we just shamed Yamas. He's just
Yeah.
Screw you guys. I'm out of here.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm gonna make a microphone, dang it.
I'm taking my live stream and going home.
All right. I put a sock on a goblet and there's my microphone. now it's hang a sock above my head. There's a mic. Hello.
Hey, Yamas, I got a spare mic here for you if you really want it.
Paul, the podcast, yeah, it's basically it's what we do on the show. We record and put onto basically so you can download and listen to it without having to have YouTube playing, you know. Excuse me. And it's another form of media for us to get our voices heard. But yeah, so that's y'all had some fun weeks. Me, it's been an interesting week. Obviously busy at work. That's not going to end. Good morning, John. That's not going to end anytime soon. Got out to the shop a little bit. Last week, I did a coffee spoon out of copper, and I actually during the stream I couldn't get the spoon head solid onto the handle, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna solder it and blah 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 blah. After the show, it's like I'm looking at it, I'm like, and I just took and put it over something and just 1, 2, and it was tight. So this is done. Didn't have to solder it. You know, all awesome. Been using it all week as a coffee spoon for scooping my grounds. So yeah. But yeah, a little interesting thing that happened this week, and I don't know. I couldn't tell you if anything's gonna come of it, but if it does, here at Island Metal Forge, there are going to be some major changes, not to the channel, so to speak, but to the way I do things. If this happens, now a good friend of mine from Key West, from back in my Key West days, and actually, this is the first time I'm telling anybody other than the parties involved. Good friend of mine from Key West would like to get out of the Keys. For whatever situation, it happens. He's lived down there for like 15 years or more, almost 20 years now, I think. And he's like, it's time for me to take a break from the Keys. And we were just chit-chatting about it and everything. And he was considering, he's like, maybe I'll head up to Jacksonville. Maybe, I don't know. I just know that I need to get out. And off the cuff, I'm like, well, we're busy as hell, with work. And I know he's he's got electrical knowledge. He's got carpentry. He knows construction. And I'm like, well, let me talk to my boss and see if I can't get you up here and get you a job up here, get you on your feet, and he's like, man, that'd be great. Let me, talk to you later, because he called while I was at work. And my boss is like, yeah, if he can get up here, if you don't got a place to stay, you can crash in the shop. We can build build out my office, and he can crash in there, crash on my couch until that's set up, or until he finds a place. We'll make it work. And so we could use it. Jay was like, do it. So trying to get in contact again with him, it's difficult to get in contact with people down there. But if that happens, if he comes up, I would basically have a hardworking partner to help me out there, to help me clear things, help me build Windfall, help me build the office, and improve the shop and potentially the show, because he's a character. He is a character. Let me tell you what.
Which person is this?
This is Chris.
Okay.
Not Tim. Not Tim.
I was gonna say, so you're shooting for your very own indentured servant.
Shh, I didn't say that. I did not say that. I did not say that.
No, he didn't say it. Just heavily implied.
Right. Hey Shane, what's up, Aaron?
I'll have somebody to do all my work for me.
There's somebody to help.
On that note, that does mean that that timeline of taking forever that Yamez has, it should be halved. So it should only take half an eternity.
Well, my thing is anybody who helps me with the stuff that I need to get done will be rewarded handsomely in the end. I mean, I'm not one of those who uses help and then just forgets about it. It's like I may have to be reminded here and there, but like, if you help me build something, like, it gets paid back.
How are you going to reward me then? I'm already handsome.
I actually have to blur your face a little bit just to keep the women from just knocking down our doors. I don't know. So
they have a long way to swim to get to me.
Yeah, and my drink of the day is Aussie lemonade. Or wait, no, let me Aussie lemonade.
You do that just to get me to roll my eyes.
Let me read the back here. Inspired by the land. Inspired by the land down under with over 10,000 beaches. Sponsored by Russell Crowe and Paul Hogan. Great for when you got a shrimp on the Barbie, and don't worry, no babies were taken by dingoes in the making of this can. Beat it. It doesn't say that. I'm being a jerk. Roy!
Hey, Yamez, there's a very well-known Australian word that starts with a C.
Wonder what that could be.
Yeah, Roy's. Roy's like, someone say indentured service. Yeah, Roy's got time. I want one. Oh, crikey!
They're great.
Morning, Roy.
Oh, I'm just playing.
Hey, Roy always shows up right at the most blue parts of our conversation.
Oh, I know.
Swear.
I know.
It's like apart from Borax, apart from Flux, the other way to attract Roy is to have a Blacksmith conversation that's rather blue, and bang, he's there.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, he's here the whole time, but he's just like, yeah, this is going sideways real quick. Let me get us back on track.
Let me remind people that royalty is present.
Mind your P's and Q's.
To be fair.
To be fair.
But yeah, so that was my week. Kind of an interesting week. And I did something in the shop yesterday. I've got this like chemical smell on my fingers, and I can't get it gone. But yeah, so yeah, so
come on, Yamez, you're not that far from the house. You can make it to the bathroom. I mean, come on now.
Topic of the week, huh?
I was gonna say, seriously though, that orange degreaser that the mechanics use, that takes the smell out of everything.
Maybe it's Gojo, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get something Gojo. Yeah. I'm gonna have to get something. But anyway, we're actually getting back to a metal for the topic of the week, as opposed to, well, us talking about random tools and, stuff like that. So, metal of the week today.
I hate to say it, but not to be contradictory, but it's very metal. Metal. Pretty metal. Yeah, it's way more metal.
I guess I didn't know all that stuff was metal.
That was cool.
It's the metal of the week.
Metal of the week today is tungsten. We talked about this, Adam. It was going to be when I stopped talking, it's audio playing.
We did, right? But I had a dropout in my audio just before you said so. Metal of the week, and then it went, and then my audio on my end dropped out, and so I was like, "Hang on, wait, have I lost everything, or what's going on?"
Oh.
And then, yeah, so that's my bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why when they was like, oh, hang on, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, because like I said, just beforehand, my audio dropped out, so I actually didn't hear anything up to, and it's just come back in. All I heard was tungsten, and then it dropped again. I thought, hang on, have I lost audio completely? So.
All right, that was funny. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Hey, Bloobs, still waiting on your hammer handle. Metal of the week to this week is tungsten, and it's an interesting metal because, as far as I know, to forge it is so difficult. Yet it comes, with tooling and everything, you deal with it all the time. From tungsten carbide tipped drill bits and saw blades and whatnot. But what actually is it? It is this magical, mythical, difficult steel. Tungsten, or wolfram, is a chemical element with a symbol W and atomic number 74. It's a rare metal found naturally on Earth and almost exclusively as compounds with other elements. It was identified as a new element in 1781 and first isolated as a metal in 1783. It took them 2 years to wow. But it's remarkable for its robustness, especially the fact that it has the highest melting point of all known elements, barring carbon, which sublimes normal pressure, melting at 3,410 degrees Celsius or 6,170 degrees Fahrenheit. It also has the highest boiling point. I mean, I'm sure if it's the highest melting point, then its boiling point's got to be higher. At 10,000 degrees, 10,706 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna pretty much take a plasma arc to vaporize tungsten, then, huh?
Yeah,
Maybe not even that.
Right. It's dense. It has a density at 13 or 19.3 grams per cubic centimeter, comparable with uranium and gold. It's pretty heavier. Polycrystalline tungsten is an intrinsically brittle. That's why a lot of times, so when forging, so I've got these scrap drill bits and they tungsten tipped, that tip just goes cracks off. Or anything alloyed with tungsten it'll be super hard, but like just crack, especially under heat. It makes it difficult to work, like I just said. However, pure single crystalline tungsten is more ductile and can be cut with a hard steel hacksaw. That I did not know. That's neat. Tungsten occurs in many alloys, which have numerous applications, including incandescent light bulb filaments, X-ray tubes, electrodes in gas tungsten arc welding, superalloys, and radiation shielding. Tungsten's hardness and high density make it suitable for military applications in penetrating projectiles. Tungsten compounds are often used as industrial catalysts. It's the only metal in the third transition series that is known to occur in biomolecules. Biomolecules. Yeah. Being found in a few species of bacteria. So it's also a biometal, is what I'm gathering, So neat. And it is also toxic to most forms of animal life. In its raw form, it is a hard steel gray metal that is brittle and hard to work. If made pure, it retains its hardness, which exceeds that of many steels, and becomes malleable enough that it can be worked easily. It is worked by forging, drawing, or extruding, but it is more commonly formed by sintering. I don't know what sintering is. Shall we go down a rabbit hole?
Nothing else to do.
Do it.
You guys want to find out what sintering is?
Yeah, then after that we can maybe yeah.
Sintering or frittage is a process of compacting and forming a solid mass of material by heat without melting it to the point of liquefaction. It's a manufacturing process used with metals, ceramics, and plastics. Pressure-driven sintering is basically, it seems like just using a constant heat and pressure to make it into one form.
That sounds a lot like forge welding.
Well,
yeah, I was gonna say, or forging to heat and pressure, to.
It does not have to reach the melting point to do it. It's basically forge welding something that without reaching what would be the forge welding temperature. More pressure than you would for a forge weld. The idea is to basically stick the material together, by pressure alone. Yeah. Interesting. That's a huge topic. I mean, it goes into, different styles of sintering to achieve different grain growths and porosity. That's a rabbit hole.
Are you saying we're just
another week?
Back right up out of that hole then?
I'm gonna back out of that hole before I fall in. Good morning, Curtis. Let me see. Yeah, Aaron, kind of like canister welding, I would say.
Would you like to touch on tungsten carbide, the probably most popular usable alloy of tungsten?
I absolutely can try.
I know, and to be fair, this wasn't planned. Just this on the spot. It's
totally fine.
Mentioned in the chat. So,
well, I mean that goes into the applications because now we know kind of what tungsten is. And we all kind of knew it's a brittle, hard, heavy duty steel, metal. It's not a steel. So we'll pump into its applications a bit. Half of tungsten is consumed for the production of hard materials, namely tungsten carbide, with the remaining major use being alloys and steels. Less than 10% is used for chemical compounds. Let me see. It is mainly used in the production of hard metals based on tungsten carbide, which is one of the hardest carbides. It's an efficient electrical conductor, so it's used for filaments and lamps and such, or old incandescent lamps. Now you have LEDs. That's going into electrical. It's used to make wear-resistant abrasives and carbide cutting tools such as knives, drills, circular saws, dies, milling tools, turning tools used by the metalworking, woodworking, mining, and construction industries. Carbide tooling is actually a ceramic metal composite, so that carbide dusting that you see is it's ceramic and carbide powder attached to the like a paste that is thrown onto the tips. Uh, Whereas metallic cobalt acts as a binding matrix material to hold the particles in place. This type of industrial use accounts for about 60% of current tungsten consumption. Uh, yeah, you see tungsten rings and all sorts of neat stuff like that. So the jewelry industry uses tungsten carbide. Uh, yeah. Um, The hardness and heat resistance of tungsten can contribute to useful alloys. A good example is high-speed steel. Everybody knows HSS. That is, like drill bits. Something that can withstand the heat for quite a long time while staying sharp. Uh, it's a good material for things like rocket nozzles, missiles, etc. It's used in automotive, aerospace. It's just an all around awesome metal. Uh, Super alloys containing tungsten, such as hastalloy and stellite, are used in turbine blades and wear resistant parts and coatings. Uh, yeah. And then it goes into some stuff that looks like it's military grade. But yeah, it's just I'm looking at this and it's just such a useful, like you can alloy it with so many different uh, elements and materials to do different things: magnetic, lubricant, uh, weights, counterweights. Yeah, you used in a ballistic keel for yachts. Basically, make that keel super heavy so that the boat don't go boop. It being so heavy. So without going so deep into like the nitty gritty of each, I mean, I've got a readout on like every single, how it's used in electronics and as a gold substitution and all of this. As far as the blacksmith's application for it, tooling, tooling. Uh, if you need to drill a hole or cut a piece of metal, it is something that can hold up to the abuse and the heat created by it, and is pretty awesome. Uh, that's what I got. Let's go to the chat to see what Roy has to say because I see just blocks of text from him. You're muted.
Roy says, pro tip, if you're making saw blade bowls, like hammering one out into a bowl, make sure you knock off the carbide tips because they will dent your anvil or swage block in a hurry. And yeah, because they don't move.
Yeah, that is one of two things can happen when forging something with a carbide tip. Either A, it will pop off pretty violently, or B, it will not move. It will move anything less hard than it, such as the anvil, the hammer. You could mess up your tools trying to forge it if you don't realize you're trying to forge it. Yeah. But
So on that note, with the tungsten carbide, they're actually the two types of tungsten carbide. So you've got the tungsten carbide that you're talking about, where that's the cementation process using tungsten carbide and cobalt powder, and then you've got the like the tips of the saws and the drill bits and stuff like that, which is tungsten carbide, which is produced by bonding atomically a single carbon atom and a single tungsten atom, or a tungsten atom, or two tungsten atoms and a carbon atom, at a temperatures of 2,550 to 2,900 degrees Fahrenheit. So you've got two different types.
right.
And that's a reachable forge temperature there.
It is, and that's but yeah, so they're bonded to that, and they're the ones that you'll commonly find stuff. The bonded ones, like the actual alloyed metal, is the type that you'll generally find on drill bits, lathe tools, milling cutters, and stuff like that. Whereas the cementation process is used primarily on the heads of drill bits in mining and petroleum and gas drilling, because it doesn't produce sparks.
Right. Doesn't produce sparks, and it can hold up to the intense heat of high-speed drilling.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I didn't. This is just kind of like popped into my head. Off the wall stuff. And talking about the carbide tip, tungsten carbide being used in the oil and gas drilling drill bits. Back when I started in this industry, the bits were a tricone mill tooth bit. So it's like a thing you screw onto the end of the pipe, and it's got three cones that are like basically wheels, and they got little points all over them. So as the pipe turns, those wheels roll around it down at the bottom of the hole and just like basically crush up the rock, because you've got tens of thousands of pounds of pipe pushing down on it. And those things were, I don't know, a brand new one would run an oil company, $4 or $5 maybe. I mean, they weren't all that expensive. But nowadays they use it's just, I don't know, it's weird looking. It's flat, and then it's just got grooves cut in it, and then they've got them carbide teeth all in it. It's just I'd have to have a picture, and I can't bring one up right now. But those suckers are $100,000 a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what? And they've got embedded RFID trackers and everything else. I mean, so
yeah, in industrial application drills and saws and stuff, it gets insanely pricey, because they're made to take a beating. They're made to do the job, and they're made to be strong. For that, like, they're made to last. You don't want to be spending all that time and manpower to constantly be changing drill bits. You want to get it in, get it going, and do use it once and go. Because when you've got, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you're drilling down a few hundred feet or more, and the bit's getting dull, pull all that crap out, change the bit, and then send it all back down and get back going. You don't want that. That costs more in the long run than spending, what'd you say, $100,000 for a good drill bit. It's not like they can just change the chuck like a drill. But Bortagov, what steel is most circular saw blades? I just pulled that up real quick, and it's like carbon steel, stainless steel. Kind of depends on the quality of the blade. It can be, not really. It does. All it has to do is hold together with the spinning, because the tungsten tipped circular saw blade, the actual body of the blade isn't the one doing the cutting, just that cutting edge is.
Also depends on what it's for.
Yeah, true.
You're probably not going to use a tungsten tipped saw bit on, your crosscut saw, or your table saw, because wood's not that hard.
Right.
Face it, compared to steel. So it might depend on the use.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you can technically cut wood with, I don't know, an aluminum blade, maybe. Or something non-ferrous. Somebody's posting something. There you go. Okay. Posted up one of these $100,000 drill bits.
Yeah, the first one is the old standby mill tooth bit, and the second one is the new tungsten carbide bits that are super expensive when you're talking about these things here are I don't know, I want to say 17 inches in diameter, something like that.
So not really good for drilling the pinholes for a knife tang.
Yeah, no, not so much. I mean, those bits are in the neighborhood of like 900 pounds.
Yeah, so not something you'd toss on your DeWalt hand drill and go, or
No,
your
no,
or
you,
your.
you put one bit in the back of a 1-ton pickup and drive it out to location, you know.
This is like, what are you hauling? Drill bit. A case of drill. Drill bit.
Got me a load of tungsten, come in.
I kind of want one just for decoration. That's a beautiful looking piece of machinery. Like, nice. I like the blue one. I want the blue one. Give me a blue one. Can I have a blue one? Send me a
Sure, you
blue
can have
one.
a blue
That
one. Those are obsolete, so those things are everywhere.
Yeah.
that second that second uh, drill bit reminds me of a hard rock mining drill bit, generally used in gold mining or uranium mining. Very similar design, except instead of having those like strips, they've got like spikes of tungsten carbide.
Right.
Yeah, that's similar to what our rat hole machines or surface rigs use. They use one that's got them little spikes. I've got some of those spikes out
Yeah.
there. The last hole we were on that where the surface rig was still there, they changed out like 30 of those carbide tip spikes on their the thing that drills the cellar is like a big what do you call it, corkscrew or
Auger.
auger. There you go. It's like a
Auger.
big
Yeah.
auger that's I don't know, 15 feet in diameter, and then it's got all it, the very bottom has got all them little spikes on it with the carbide tips. And they changed out about 30 of those, and they just left them on the ground. And one of the truck pushers brought them to me. He's like, "Here, see if you can do something with these." And I was like, "Uh, that's carbide. No."
That'd do one hell of a post hole.
And they're probably, I would say, if I could compare them, each one of them is like maybe twice the diameter of my thumb and about as long. So, um, yeah, they're pretty beefy. But the carbide bit isn't just like it's almost like the tooth that it's on is formed around that carbide. Because it's not just like glued on. It's the steel actually encases
Yeah.
that tungsten carbide just a little bit, and so it takes quite a bit of wear before it knocks those teeth off.
I would think making one of those teeth, would be similar to how you would make like a rubber glove or something, where you heat the steel up to a melting point, and then take and dip the tungsten tip into it, the tungsten carbide tip into it, to coat it and kind of swirl it around, like, to get it all nice and solid. You pull it out, you dip it in again, and boom, and then you got a machinable piece that you could, that has tungsten inlay. I would say, I'm talking out my butt though. I may not know exact, but to me that seems like an easy way to do it. If the melting point of tungsten carbide and tungsten is so high, use it like you're dipping a pretzel in chocolate. That's better than a rubber glove. Like you're dipping a pretzel in chocolate, because the pretzel's not going to melt when you dip it into the chocolate, just like the tungsten is not going to melt when you dip it into the molten steel. So, and yes, remember, Stephen, if you're forge welding tungsten, don't forget your uh, Christ-centered Ironworks brand flux, Blacksmiths glue.
The only hot metal glue you'll ever need.
Yep. How do, Randy?
Morning, Randy.
But yeah, tungsten. It's an interesting metal because it's very useful. Even with how difficult it is to work, it's very useful.
Yeah, and I'm so curious that I'm just like, I wonder. But I also know there's no possible way for me to get a fire hot enough to even be able to put a dent in it. I mean, it's just like,
It would
oh
melt your
man.
fire pot. It would melt your fire pot.
Yeah, I have no way to contain a fire that hot. I mean, because it's like forging temperature is like twice the melting point of my fire bricks.
Yeah. Yeah, like everything that we've got is up to 3,000 degrees, 3,000, 3,200 degrees. So to get something that needs to be forged at double that,
Like
whoa,
6,000.
yeah, whoa, over 6,000. Yeah. What's up, Chewy? It's like, huh. I mean, I couldn't even, you'd have to go into like industrial um ceramics and industrial like manufactured the coating that you would need to make a forge that strong. I couldn't even begin. I couldn't even. That's way above my pay grade. Maybe one day we'll get a guest on the show that works at a tungsten foundry or something or whatever it would be
That would
called.
be interesting.
Yeah, you know. Um, and if any of you know of one, let them know that we're.
One that makes me wonder as well. Would it be because a foundry is generally um, associated with iron or ferrous metals, whereas a smelter is non-ferrous. You got your gold smelters, your silver smelters, that type of thing. So I wonder if it would be smelter or if it would be a foundry. Be interesting. That's an
I
interesting.
wonder. I mean, like I would think recovery of tungsten would involve, because it's not really found as a raw metal. It's found as a compound with other minerals or other elements to form a mineral. And I would assume, much like the common way that silver is mined, is you grind it up, and like with silver, you grind up the ore or the telluride, and then you put it in a slurry, and you put air up in the bottom, up through the bottom of that slurry, and the silver sticks to the air bubbles and floats up to the top, and then they got a skimmer that skims the silver off the top. And I would think that the recovery of tungsten would be in a similar manner, where it's ground into a fine powder and then separated that way from the ores, so to speak.
Well,
I don't know this at all. I'm just
well,
speculating. So and I don't. I mean, like, I guess that would make it a refined. And then through some chemical process, the other elements are removed. Like in the case of tellurides, when you've got say calaverite, 60% gold, 40% tellurium, if you heat it to 1,000 degrees, the tellurium sublimates. It goes straight from well, no, it doesn't either. It actually does turn into a liquid first. It turns into a silvery liquid on the surface of your rocks, and then the tellurium evaporates, leaving just the gold behind in like a molecular powder form. Really neat stuff. I mean, you heat it up to 1,000 degrees, tellurium evaporates, you're left with gold.
I'd like to address two things right quick. One thing that Adam said, and then one thing that Randy just said in the chat. Tungsten is non-ferrous. Ferrous means contains iron and is magnetic. So tungsten does not contain iron. It is a non-ferrous metal. It is a metal, not a mineral. Randy, Castelite 2550 has a super high temperature range of almost 3,000 degrees. Wouldn't that offer a better atmosphere for forging with tungsten? No, by half. The forging temperature, or the forging temperature of tungsten, or the melting temperature of tungsten is 6,192 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, that's the melting point. The boiling point is 10,000 degrees. Yeah. So the forging temperature has got to be in the 5,000 degrees plus.
Yeah, I would estimate 5 to 6. 6 is the high end. So
yeah, 6 is where it turns to liquid, or 6, just over 6 is where it turns to liquid, And so just under 6, just over 5 would probably be where it's malleable as a like if you're talking like at the anvil. And at that point you're gonna have to have a heat shield and all sorts of protective gear because
Hey, here's a exercise in what ifs,
futility.
I guess. No, not necessarily futility, but let's say you're trying to forge tungsten, and you're pulling it out of the forge at I don't know, just assuming you could get it that hot, and you're pulling it out at 5,500 degrees Fahrenheit.
Hmm.
Um, is it going to melt your tongs when you grab it?
Right.
Is
Right.
it going to melt? Is it going to melt your anvil while it's sitting on it? I mean, because that's twice the melting point of steel.
Yeah.
So,
And you
how would
really hope there wasn't any slag or any forge scale coming off it. I tell you what.
yeah, I don't well tungsten wouldn't scale, but
Because it's non-ferrous.
right, but
Scale is oxidization of iron.
right. And yeah, tungsten oxidizes in a slightly different way, similar to aluminum, like a kind of a white oxide powder. It wouldn't really lend to scale. It would be more of a powder coming off of it. But anyways, no, I mean, but like you throw it on the anvil, you smack it with a hammer, and like liquid chunks of your anvil come splashing out at you. I mean, like,
No
whew,
kidding.
how horrible would that be?
Right. I'm just imagining it like you hit it and then all of a sudden you got a big old dish pockmark in your anvil. Oh. Bohr brings up a good point. An anvil would be a large heat sink. The rate of heat, and Roy continues on that. The rate of heat exchange for steel stays the same. So yeah, no, it wouldn't just immediately melt the top of the anvil.
Well, no, I didn't figure, but I mean, it's just one of those things you kind of gotta think about, just because it's fun to think about.
Now, reaching your tongs into a forge that is at, 5,500 degrees to pick up something in there, and you're digging around and you finally grab it, you pull them out, then tongs are going to be forging temperature. I think.
Yeah, don't squeeze too hard, or you're just bending them.
So you'd
Yeah.
also you'd also want a pretty good PPE and a long set of tongs because you would not want to go anywhere near the mouth of
No
that forge.
kidding. I have to wear a glove on my hammer hand when I'm working Damascus because getting that close to something that's almost 3,000 degrees is woohoo.
I'll be right back. I need to take 5.
Heard. But
Yeah. Can you? It'd be like looking at the sun.
oh
That's
yeah,
well beyond white hot.
absolutely. That's why preheating your anvil is a ridiculous notion. I got kicked from a group for telling people that they don't need to preheat their anvil. I got kicked from a group for saying that preheating the anvil, is completely unnecessary, and anybody who recommends doing it, or anybody who says that you need to do it, doesn't exactly know what they're talking about concerning thermodynamics. And I got kicked from the group, and I said it pretty much just like that. People don't want to, listen to science. Yeah, Roy, if you don't preheat it, it's going to explode.
See, okay. While we're on the topic of preheating anvils,
Okay.
right? See, I've never preheated the anvil, but the explanation I heard for preheating the anvil, and I know it's incorrect there, Roy, because it's just the idea of preheating the anvil is ludicrous to begin with. But what the explanation that I first heard for why it's done is not so much to stop anything happening to the anvil, but to maintain a longer working temperature on the piece that you're working, so that the anvil doesn't act as much of a heat sink to draw. Like if you've got a cold anvil and you put something hot on it, heat draws out of something faster than something heating up. So, if you put a hot piece of hot steel on a cold anvil, it will get colder faster than if you put hot steel on a warmer anvil. That was the explanation I was first introduced to, even though I know it's air temperature, ambient temperature, all that type of thing factors into how things cool. That's just the explanation that I first had to let people know.
Now, Roy actually did a live stream where he demonstrated that, and
I remember it.
yeah, and what he came up with was the time and like the transfer of heat over time in whether the anvil is 40 degrees or 80 degrees is negligible.
Negligible, yeah.
It's like you'd have to use some pretty accurate, like it's not seconds, it's like microseconds of a difference. And where if you're doing some industrial application where it absolutely has to maintain X amount of temperature, at this specific blah 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 blah, then sure, I could see it being preheat your tools, preheat your dies, and blah 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 blah. But for blacksmith, it's so negligible that it's not even worth the effort, time, and money to preheat an anvil.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. And I 100% agree. I was just saying that was how it was first introduced to me personally. So the whole idea of cracking an anvil or something like that is ludicrous in and of itself.
Yeah, yeah.
But at least the explanation, like the whole working time, at least it sounds plausible. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, it's one of those things where it's like if you absolutely don't understand thermodynamics or have an extremely basic understanding of thermodynamics, then yeah, it makes sense. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then when you really dig into the physics of it, it's null void, and there's too many variables. Like Roy says, the friction, completely making it null would be the friction of the hammer working, moving the molecules. That takes up that fraction of a seconds of heat loss, So yeah.
Yeah. So we can all ridicule those or no, not ridicule, but try to educate those that think that preheating an anvil is necessary.
And the trouble is you say you stopped at ridicule and rephrased it as educate. When you try to educate somebody on that they've heard by, like Roy goes on and all the time about, if it's said enough, it becomes air quotes true, and an accepted statement, whether it goes against science or not. It's like you try to educate people about that, and they've heard it from somebody who's heard it from somebody who's heard it from somebody. And no, I'm right, you're wrong. I know more people telling me that it's right than I do telling me that it's wrong. They'll take it as ridicule. So you can tell them and then walk away, because 9 times out of 10 you're going to start some sort of drama style argument about the merits or non-merits of heating or preheating your anvil. And this is a completely off the wall topic. Mountain Home Forge, the only reason I can see for preheating an anvil is to keep a coffee cup warm. Yep. There you go. Okay. Preheating anvils thing got started with forge anvils, ones that sit on a forge when making super small things like wedding rings or welded rings for chainmail. You know what?
Yep.
Fair to be fair, I have a small little like 5-pound block anvil that when I'm doing something, like some small forge welds, I will literally scoot up right next to the fire pot, pull it out, tap tap, put it back in, pull it out, tap tap, put it back in. Forge weld done.
Yeah, I have one similar that I picked up there at Quad State. It's got I mean it looks like a like a little regular anvil, but it's only like 4 inches by 2 inches maybe,
Yeah.
and then it's got like a tapered post on it, like it would fit in a hardy hole. Unfortunately, the tapered bottom to it is much larger than any hardy hole I own.
Yeah.
It doesn't even fit in my striking anvil, which has got a 2.5. It might fit in that one. I don't think I've tried 2.5 inch hardy because it's the bottom block. No, I don't have the top block to
You've
it.
got the
It's a little
flex plate
smaller.
though.
Yeah, I do have a pexel plate, and it would fit in one of the holes on that.
But
But what I did is I took a piece of 1.5 inch. No, I know it would fit in that because I stuck it in a piece of 1.5 inch tubing. Anyways, I took a piece of 1.5 inch tubing off of a that was cut out of a crane boom, and I stuck that little anvil in one end of it, and I stuck it right next to my coal forge, and then I hammered it down into the ground so that the that piece of tubing was probably about 18 inches into the ground, and then that little stake anvil, if you will, was stuck in the top of it. And it's just right there, right next to the coal forge. So if I was doing a forge weld, I mean, literally, I had to move the piece of metal like 6 inches and I could just like bring it right over there and just tap 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 back in the fire,
yeah.
And that was
Now
really handy rather than having to take 3 steps with it.
I get to correct Roy real quick. Calling them anvils, of course, is a bit of a stretch as well because they are usually just blocks of steel, like mine. Smiley face. The definition of an anvil is the tool that you place uh, the steel on to hit and shape. So, in the same vein of anything can be an anvil, from a rock to a chunk of steel to a London pattern anvil, it's still an anvil. I was going to recommend that if anybody wants to try this idea for their forge welding, get an old sledgehammer head and go ahead and weld yourself a little base so that it stays up, and just a little one, and then just set it next to your uh, forge, right at the right at where you would sit the coal. Coal can be piled around it, and do that. It's literally just a striking surface.
Speaking of just like hunks of steel, if anyone's ever seen Alex from Valhalla Ironworks, his Sawyer's anvil, which is about 200 years old or so, is literally just a square hunk of steel, and that's 200 years old Sawyer's anvil to make saw and fix repairs, crosscut saws and stuff. So it's a square long square hunk of steel.
I think Roy's mad at me now.
I'd like to address a comment. Xavier says, when metal gets too cold, does it make it brittle? That's always what I thought preheating was good for because it gets to -50 where I am sometime. Um, as it pertains to my industry, like say moving rigs up on the North Slope of Alaska, -50, 65, somewhere in that area is, a thing. And we still use wire rope on our winches and stuff. Now they tell you, oh well, it's cold. The wire rope will get brittle and it could break, but it really doesn't happen that often. I mean, often when it breaks, it has little less to do with the cold than it does with wear and tear on the winch line, and having bunches of broken wires and too much weight and all that. So even at 50 to 65 below. The 10, whatever it is, 1080, I guess, is about the grade of steel used in most wire rope. Still spools up and bends and twists and does all the stuff that it does at 150, really. I mean, because it gets hot out here. So technically speaking, yes, it does get more brittle, but I don't think it's going to get brittle enough to make a difference unless you're dunking your stuff in liquid nitrogen and getting it a couple 100 degrees below. You get down to -240, and that's going to be pretty brittle.
Yep. Roy brings up an excellent point for the preheating anvil argument. Another way of thinking about it is, what would our forefathers in the craft do? 200 years ago, do you think they took their anvils and threw them in the forge before work? How about any time before the modern invention of torches? Yeah, you're right at that, but I mean, you could always heat up a piece of steel plate and toss it on the anvil and let the heat transfer. But you are also right. Um, who would waste the time? Who would waste the fuel? You know, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, and if you want to preheat your anvil, who might have stopped you? If it makes you mentally feel good, like a placebo effect, go for it. Absolutely. I am not one to tell you do not do this. I'm one to tell you do what you want. If you feel like doing it, go for it. I'm not going to do it. Yeah. So with that uh, caveat of a point, do what you want. Um, I think I think we can call that. Finally we've had a natural stopping point at just over an hour. Uh, I know. So so yeah. With that, I'd like to say the final thoughts, guys. Let's start with you.
Oh, yeah. So if you're gonna forge tungsten, don't. That's all I got to say about that. I don't see a way you could possibly um, come out happy at the end of that. Um, Other than that, I mean, gosh, if you're gonna get out and do something, put on your PPE, stay hydrated, and most importantly, be safe and have fun. So y'all have a fantastic week. I know I'm going to. I'm busy, 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 and that makes for great paydays. So I will catch you guys next Sunday, and see ya.
Yep.
So, okay. Thanks for joining us. You can find Yamas on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and you can find Alex at Transcendental Eye Artist Studios on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And finally, you can find me, Adam, at Speargrass Forge on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Don't forget if you have any suggestions for Tool of the Week, Metal of the Week, or any other topic, you can drop it in the hashtag Metal of the Week in our YouTube community chat on Discord, or you can email us at islandmetalforge@gmail.com. If you found us on Spotify or Anchor or any of your favorite podcast providers, we upload generally around every Wednesday, or you can join us live every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's currently 11:30 p.m. Australian Central Standard Time Sunday night, but check that against your local time on the Island Metal Forge YouTube channel, and you can join us live in the chat there. Finally, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button while you're here. Download, or if you've downloaded on Spotify or Anchor, thank you very much. We appreciate your support. And for final thoughts, yeah, get out there and hit something. Don't work too hard. Take some time off. Make sure you drink plenty of water.
That beautifully put. Just my typical. I want to give a big shout out to the channel members, and and a big thank you to the supporters, and thank you all for joining in this Sunday morning gathering, and look forward to seeing you guys in a few hours for my 6 p.m. Eastern forging show. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be doing tonight. I'll figure it out. But either way, it's going to be fun. Uh, Big thanks and big appreciation to my co-hosts. Love you guys. Can't do it without you. Uh, y'all be safe, have fun, and make something beautiful or useful or abuseful. uh, as always, you guys have a wonderful day. Good morning, good evening, and good night.